How are you, Parker?
I'm good, Ruben. Nice to speak to you.
Could you tell us about your character in Smile 2?
I play Sky Riley. She is a international pop star, global pop sensation. And she is about to go back on a world tour, and some crazy things occur, and she begins to become more and more unhinged as the movie goes on.
I need you to listen to me. Something really bad happened.
Where did you get the idea for the Smile 2 movie?
After the first film, when I was thinking about, how I would even potentially approach a sequel, I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that felt different from the first film, Like, it's got Smile running through its DNA, but it also has its own identity, its own metabolism, and is doing new things. And I wasn't sure how I was going to approach it until I sort of came upon this idea of Sky Riley as a character, this internationally famous pop star who's just sort of like re-emerging into the public eye. Felt like such a strong starting place, and sort of unlocked everything from there.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sky Riley, you are in the middle of a big world tour.
You okay?
I keep seeing this face everywhere.
Did you drew some inspiration from real life pop superstars in order to play your character?
You know what? It's interesting because I've been asked this question, and the honest answer is no. There wasn't a specific pop star or performer that I had in mind. I think subconsciously things I'm sure came out that were, music and performers and things that I've consumed over time. But also there was a shape and an outline to Sky that had already been forming and in motion by the time I'd signed on to the movie. So there was, a couple of songs that were already written, there were costumes, there was choreography. These were things that were already in place. And so I kind of felt like, well, there's this world that's kind of been created, and I just want to see what happens when I slot into that and allow it to maybe be its own thing. Although there are clear influences from some of the best performers that we know and love in terms of the way in which she presents. But for me, I just kind of I just went with it and thought about what would happen organically if you put those things together.
I went to his apartment, but when I showed up,
Lewis?
How do you consider this film different from other films that are about a curse that follows you, and you have to pass it on to get free of it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of, authors like M.R. James, and of so much of Japanese horror like Ringu and, The Grudge and stuff like that. And then even more modern films like It Follows, and I think there's this great history of these kinds of films. So it's sort of my love letter to sort of these curse chain films. But what I wanted to do with mine was sort of really make them character driven and explore a character's interior world and their psychology, and how this curse that comes in, the supernatural component, what it does is it exploits what's going on inside of their head, right? That it goes in and takes all of their interior psychology and twists it up with this exterior supernatural element until they become sort of indistinguishable from one another, and creates this really frightening, nightmarish scenario where it's so precision tooled for the character and so personal that it feels, extra frightening.
This thing is a parasite. You witnessed a death. Now it's latched onto you.
You sing, you dance, you fight, you scream, you run, you drive. What was the hardest part?
I think the most difficult thing was probably, it was maintaining a level of intensity throughout the shoot that asks a lot of you physically, mentally, and emotionally, because it's not just a few scenes that you have to prepare for that level of intensity. It is quite constant throughout shooting. So it's more about how do I conserve my energy? How do I ramp up to an intense emotional space, but quite quickly. You know, how do I do that efficiently? And I think that was the most difficult. Also, I think the combination of technical shots with very emotional scenes is hard, because sometimes it's not, you know, a one and done, a one take and done. Sometimes you have to figure out the technicality of the shot, and we're all kind of working together as a team to make sure we get that in place, as well as then me maintaining that performance. So I think the combination of those two things, I think the result is great when you get that right. It's just, it is a challenge, but it's one that I really enjoy.
Why a smile? It looks quite scary, and the smiles can be real frightening. But in the case of your movie,
You know, listen, there's, you know, I'm certainly not the first to use a creepy smile in a horror film, but I really love the idea, of course, that smiles are meant to be warm and friendly and disarming, and if I can turn that on its head and make it menacing and mean-spirited and hateful and threatening, you know, that's wonderful. But even if you go sort of like below the surface on that, what I really like is that I think we use smiles to sort of mask how we're feeling on the inside. I think sometimes we put on a smile to sort of project that everything is okay, that we're happy, that we're fine, that we're normal, quote unquote normal, that really is hiding all of these things that we're all sort of walking around carrying, you know, whether it's anxieties, if it's, you know, depression, if it's guilt, or whatever it is, this stuff, our interior worlds, we use a smile as sort of like a barrier, and then to have the smile sort of flipped on its head and be sort of this symbol for evil and what the evil is also hiding behind its smile. It just felt really, really right.
I've traced the string of deaths to you. Nobody has survived longer than a week.
Sky, pull it together.
Ray Nicholson is in the film, and he has a very peculiar smile. How did he get the role?
So Ray is such a fantastic actor, and you know, without saying too much, there's a particular scene in the film that he's in that I think is such a knockout scene, and he's you know, a fantastic performer. And I really loved working with him. He had auditioned for the film, and he just knocked me over. I thought he was so good.
No, I will not let this thing use me.
You're taking the smile to a new level. There's more action, more gore, more of everything. Was there anything that you were called upon that, no, that's too much? Or maybe even yourself, like censoring yourself, no, that's going too far, or you just went freely all the way?
You know, I went freely. I mean, I think that filmmaking is always trying to figure out how am I going to pull off this impossible task on a budget, of course. But no, I mean, I think it all started with the script, you know, and I followed what I was interested in, and just, you know, the themes and the ideas that I wanted to explore, and then also some of these sequences. But for me, I feel like, you know, I like kind of going off the rails, and I love really intense sort of, you know, anxiety fuel films, and so like I wanted to see how far I could push things.
We have to end it, no matter what.
Thank you a lot, Parker. Nice talking to you. See you.
Thank you so much. Nice speaking to you.